So I feel like I'm still digesting Watches and Wonders and this year's novelties because it was such a big year. It was such a huge year for so many brands. If you follow my channel, you know I have a big thing for Tag Heuer, and pretty specifically the Tag Heuer Formula 1. I actually don't think there's a person in Watch YouTube who talks about the Tag F1 more than I do. I own 2 Neo vintage models. It's so nostalgic for me. And like many other watch collectors, I have wanted to see these make a comeback for a while. So when it did come back, I was really excited. Like really excited. Tag Heuer was one of the booths I spent the most time at while I was at Watches and Wonders. They did a fantastic job, and I got to talk to a lot of the designers and people behind the relaunch of the Formula 1. And even though this was so close to being right, there are so many things I like about this re-release. For me, it just didn't hit. Here are the 3 things I think they got wrong with this, and the 3 things I think they got right. If you're new here, my name is Brittany, and on this channel we just talk all things watches. Today I am, of course, wearing the Formula 1. This is a 1996 variation. I love it. It gets a lot of wear time from me. And this is why I was so excited when Tag was starting to tease the re-release of the Formula 1. 2025 has been a big year for them, returning as the official timekeepers of Formula 1, taking over from Rolex. And it was clear from their booth at Watches and Wonders, they were really leaning into motor racing and their unique place in the space. So this kind of felt like the release that was the most tailored to me. It had a lot of my interests intersecting. But for me personally, it all just fell a little bit flat. I think the big problem for me specifically is that this was built upon such high hopes, so many years of excitement, nostalgia, that it would be really hard for it to live up to the fantasy I've created in my head over a lot of years, if that makes sense. So there are 3 big problems with this reissue. 1, the hands, 2, the bracelet, and 3, the price. And I think the price, especially, is a huge miss. But let's start with number 1. Let's talk about the hands. The very first thing I noticed when the pressed images began circulating was something on the dial just didn't look right, and I couldn't put my hand on it. But for real, if we just look past me being annoying, the hour and seconds hand look really thin and stretched out for the size of this model. Now, it should be said, this is absolutely a design element that they kept from the original. Like, if you look at mine, the hands are proportionally small, but there's something about it that just doesn't translate well on the modern watch. I think if they just made the hands slightly thicker and the Mercedes hour hands slightly longer, it would look tangibly better. The next thing they got wrong, in my humble opinion, is the bracelet. Now, I think I might get a little bit of pushback on this one, and that's totally fine. This is all subjective, and my bias is so strongly with the older model. But with that said, I really wish they did more of a Jubilee style bracelet or had the Jubilee option. Now, I think this will be one of those things that many people really like. It's one of the changes that provides an update and a point of differentiation. But I am stubborn and annoying, and I like what I like. I actually expect a lot of disagreement with this one, so let me know your thoughts in those comments down below. Another thing I didn't formally mention, I actually probably should have said it. I can't stop thinking about this ever since I've seen it in the metal and fidgeted around with one. But the bezel is bi-directional, and it doesn't click. It's really weird. I don't understand it. Even if you're going to take away the click, which is already a decision that I hate, why make it bi-directional? What is that adding? The heritage of this watch has always been a dive watch. If you look at the old Tag catalogs, this is marketed as a dive watch. Keep that unidirectional bezel as a nod to the heritage. And the last big problem, the price. And I think they've actually really missed something pricing these new models the way they have at £1,650 or $1,900 USD. Woof. I feel like I see what they were trying to do and leaning into the premium side of Tag Heuer, but with this, they've lost the spirit of the original, and the product itself doesn't live up to that price. So when the first generation came out in 1986, the price was $136. Adjusted for inflation, that is the equivalent of $396 today, or let's say $400. These were always meant to be a cheap and cheerful offering and something to attract a younger collector and bring them in. But I really do see what they were doing and what they were thinking. To my knowledge, even priced at £1,650, it is still the most affordable watch in the TAG Heuer catalog. So it is technically the entry point into the brand. I also think this isn't meant to be entry level and attract new people to the brand like the originals were. I think this is meant to attract middle-aged people who feel nostalgic. I'm not middle-aged. How old are middle-aged people? I'm technically not middle-aged, so it's meant to appeal to a very different demographic than the originals were, and this demographic it's meant for have a much larger purchasing power. And I think I really need to emphasize it is specifically targeting nerds and people who would feel nostalgic about this. I think for a lot of middle-aged professionals, spending £1,600 on a watch is a lot. It would be a very considered purchase. But watch nerds, specifically middle-aged watch nerds who feel nostalgic, will drop that kind of money. I just spent way too much money on an Omega Seamaster Diver 300 and an IWC Aqua Timer because it felt nostalgic and I wanted them. So what I'm trying to say is I understand why they have priced these the way they have, and it reveals who the target demographic is. But I think something is lost in doing this, especially after the unique case study that is the Moonswatch. People want a fun, silly, colorful quartz watch, and they're even willing to pay a couple £100 or dollars for it. Going back to the Formula 1 in line with inflation, I think a lot of people would be more than happy to pay $400 for this. And you know, I'd even be happy if they pushed it to $800. But the way it is currently priced, it is too expensive to be a fun, random purchase, and it's too expensive for what it is. I think if they would have just kept it sub $1,000, a lot of people would have been on board. Okay, I had a lot of whinge. I had a lot of whining clogged up in there. But I think we've got it all out. I think we're ready to move on to what is right. There is a reason why so many people wanted to see this watch make a comeback, and there's a lot of things they got right. For one, the size and build quality. So this is now 38 millimeters, a very normal, very sought after modern size. They were able to keep the thickness down as well, thanks to the quartz movement with a 9.9 millimeter thickness and 100 meters of water resistance. As I said earlier, the heritage of the Formula 1 is being a dive watch. So my Neo Vintage models have 200 meters of water resistance, but the downgrade to 100 meters doesn't really bother me. No one is going properly diving in one of these. 100 meters is completely sufficient. I think the 38 millimeters is a really good size upgrade. For me, it is too large, but for a majority of purchasers, this will be a real selling feature and genuinely makes this feel like the modern interpretation of this model. The build quality is really solid, really good, no complaints. Aesthetically, they did a really great job with these. They truly feel like the modern interpretation of the Formula 1. Second thing they got right is the movement. In my humble opinion, the F1 has to be quartz. So to make it the solar graph is an especially cool decision and the kind of upgrade a lot of people like to see. And the last thing I think they got right is the timing. Formula 1 is having a big moment right now with the success of Drive to Survive, bringing in a whole new generation of fans. And honestly, some of the greatest drivers of all time are competing right now. I think this will be a time that is remembered in the Formula 1 history books. We've got Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris. Alex Albon is driving that Williams in a way I didn't think it could be driven. I think Oscar Piastri is a future world champion, Kimi Antonelli is in his rookie season, and another potential world champion. We've got Lance Stroll. But for real, the fact that Max Verstappen and Fernando Alonso are driving in the same season. I genuinely think this is one of the most exciting times to be into Formula One, and Tag Heuer is capitalizing on this moment. So they will be releasing different models in line with various Grand Prix, another way to keep hype up, keep people excited. I think it's awesome. In conclusion, the reissue of the Tag Heuer Formula One has a lot right with it. There's a lot of good things going on, but for me, there's just enough wrong that I'm not fully on board. I think sometimes the fans, the people who are really into something, are the hardest people to please because nothing will ever be fully right. They could have copied the vintage models completely, and I'd be over here complaining that they didn't innovate enough, or I would have loved to see the modern interpretation. Or they could do just that. They could give it a little remix, and the fans of the original like me will still be like, the original was better.
Well, then there is no pleasing you.
So I completely put my hands up. I know that nothing could ever be quite right. Nothing can ever capture the magic of this. But I think they did a dang good job. For me, these 80s and 90s models are forever linked to this golden era of McLaren, a cheap and cheerful little thing. I don't know. You really can't beat this for me. But Tag did a great job at keeping the original design cues, but still making something new. But anyways, guys, those are just some of my thoughts. I'd love to know yours in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And now, Pope tier patrons, come on, put their names on the screen. Hello, guys. Just a quick one from me. Thank you so much for supporting my weird little channel. There's many patrons in Gringa Town, but these are the Pope tier patrons. This is the highest tier of patrons, and thank you so much. I hope you keep enjoying my weird little channel. I hope we can keep talking about watches together, and see you over on the Patreon. Patreon. Okay. Bye, guys.